Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sleep Talk, a sideshow under the Dreamers Theater umbrella where we take a step away from the roleplay and take a peek behind the curtain and talk all things TTRPG. Today's episode will be discussing backstories and ways to craft a good backbone for the characters that you're looking to create. I am Akka, and I am joined by my two good friends, Slive.
Yo, what's up? Sorry, I was a little starstruck from the intro. You said stuff that sounded professional. That was cool.
It was really nice, yeah.
I was like, oh man, holy shit, this guy's got it going on.
I think you were away when we had said it, but I actually wrote down an intro.
Damn, what the I should do that. I am Slive, also known as Slive the Lad on the internet. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch and Blue Sky, especially. I do gaming and stuff and weird shit.
Heck yeah. We love gaming. And I am also joined by Micah.
Hi, I'm Micah. You can find me on Tumblr, but I'm not going to give you my username, and if you did find me, you didn't. Shh. But if you would like to give us an email, you can do so at theaterdreamers0@gmail.com, or you can check out this show's socials along with the socials for all of our other projects at Dreamers Theater on TikTok or Blue Sky. And as always, the theater is spelled with an R-E. I don't have a fancy reason today. This is the sideshow. Fancy reasons are for the main podcast.
Thank God you're here. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say thank God Mike is here to get the email right.
Yeah, I remember in our episode you did botch it, which is funny.
I uber botched it.
But one other quick plug real fast. For any of the ways that you can watch us, you can check us out on YouTube for a little bit more visual stuff. And otherwise, anywhere that you can get your podcasts, you can check us out at the Dreamers Theater handle. And with that, let's talk backstories. Let's talk about them. Is there anything that anyone's got to tee us off into this world?
Well, I can kick off this discussion the way that I kick off almost every discussion that I've ever had, which is to say that all of the advice that I have is highly contextual because that is the way the world works.
Real.
Yeah. I definitely have a lot. I think I have a lot of blanket statements that should not be taken as blanket statements. I've noticed that I talk very, I'm a white guy, so I sound very confident. But none of this should be taken as full on ultimate advice. None of it. We are all learning, and all of this is kind of stuff that I find useful. But also, that's a great way to start off. Hey, let's say no, we have no advice, but be like, hey guys, if your character fucking sucks after this podcast, you can't blame us. You cannot blame us. You must have fucked up along the way and didn't take our advice correctly. But one thing that if we want to go into actual specifics, I do have one of my notes is just saying your character's backstory can be a novel or a couple of sentences, as long as you know who they are and what makes them, right? I think that's a very important part where definitely when I was getting into D&D, the D&D space, social media, memes, and the community a lot, I felt like there was this obligation to make written backstory and be okay, well, I'm actually from this place and I did all these things and this was my journey until here and all these things. And I was just really intimidated by that. Because a lot of my backstory that I bring up with my GMs are just me kind of rambling for a minute or two and being like, that's good, cool. And then I walk away and I never write it down.
So I relate to that, Slive. Yeah, that was actually something that I kind of challenged myself. Yeah, I do agree. You really just need to know who your character is and what they want. Across a lot of different kinds of writing and across theater. One of the so I have theater training, and one of the big things we talk about in acting when you are trying to get in the head of a character, so this isn't quite backstory building, but it applies here, is you talk a lot about what does the character want in the scene? What do they want out of whatever interaction they're in? And I think you can kind of apply that as you're starting to think about your backstory, it can be a novel, it can be 2 sentences, but is there something in your character's life that they want? And that could literally be a meal at the next town, or that could be vengeance, or that could be, it could be literally anything, but like it's going to be way more fun to play than if you get into a situation where it's like, oh, hey, like you're going to want to play them a lot more if they want something. So that's like one of the big things I would give advice on is try and figure out what they want.
Yeah, I literally, one of the notes I have is just a character with a goal is good, period. That's all I wrote, and I was like, I can extrapolate on that for like 5 minutes, but Micah did it, so fuck me.
I didn't mean to steal that. It's just...
No, it's like, it's good advice. Like, it's true. We both thought it. It's true.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like, hey, players and DMs, talk to each other. Session 0 is fantastic for this. One of my favorite things that we do for Session 0 as a group, we did this for both Endless Divide and Cracks in the Porcelain Border, is we sat down with some basic character questions, and we just all answered them for our characters. And that was really helpful. It was really helpful to just sort of solidify, like, oh, okay, like this is starting to get at who my character is and what they want, even if you don't have all that going in, like going around a table and all together being like, yeah, my character wants I can't think of a good example.
50 gold.
Yeah, my character wants gold. Okay, that's fine, that's great. My character wants religious freedom. That's also, and just but the big thing is talk to people and talk to each other. You're collaborating. See if your DM has any ideas about, like, you say, I want to be a thief. Okay, then you can bring that to your DM and be like, okay, I'm a thief. Let's figure out, like, is there a criminal organization that the DM has in their back pocket that they can be like, oh yeah, you're going to fit in great with the Thieves Guild, or that kind of stuff. It opens the door.
Yeah. It also, like, allows your character to be a part of the world beforehand, which helps a lot to make the backstory where, like, as much as it's collaborative, I've noticed that when people make a lot of backstory that's kind of adjacent to nothing in the world, it can be very difficult for them to still feel like a part of the world, even though the character is there. Like, we'll take Corey, for example, or like Corey compared to Valsic. Valsic is a really cool character. I think he's really well done. I think Edward plays him very well for as much of a shitheel he is, but he has no, like, connections to the world other than the fellow PCs. Just because he's kind of like a street urchin, he roams around. So I think it's more difficult for Edward to connect to the world because there's nothing that he's aware of, or nothing that his character's aware of that's, like, close to him in the campaign of Rena. Whereas KJ has affiliations and feelings towards a lot of the entirety of Rena, which makes it a lot easier for you, I think, Micah. Don't let me speak for you, but I feel like it's a lot easier for you to kind of get invested on what you are trying to do when it comes to the campaign.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think Corey has any feelings about anything at all. I think he's just a himbo with no internal life. No,
yeah, you made a stereotype.
I made a stereotype. No. Yeah, making Corey, but that was like a product of you and I going back and forth. Cards on the table, I have something like, I wrote a novel for Corey. I have something like 2,000 words of backstory that I wrote for him.
Jesus Christ. Really? Is
something
that true?
Insane like that. Yes, somewhere.
Have you even sent that to me?
No.
Oh, God.
It is a distilled down version of the, like, 2 or 3 weeks of conversation we had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of just going back and forth and being like, well, what about this as his, like, draconic ancestor?
Like, right, yeah, like a lot of us going back and forth for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like for a lot
what
of
are we
the details.
doing here, you know?
And you don't have to do that, because then for Endless Divide, I didn't do almost any writing for my character. I more kind of figured out some broad strokes.
Yeah, I think you just had that. Like I was like, I'm 90% sure. Remembering back to when we were getting the session 0 done for Endless Divide and like getting ready for the character sessions. I think you were just on. Like you and Akka both. You were both so ready that session. Like even just talking through. When I was like just talking to you guys like offhand. It was so funny. When you were both just like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna do this, and it was just done. You both knew exactly what you wanted immediately. Like I think there was some like a little bit of confusion at first, especially for you, Micah, because you were not like privy to the genre. But as soon as you had like one idea, I just remember like maybe a week going by, and you were like, yeah, I'm pretty done. I'm pretty much done. I got it all done.
Right.
Like, well, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. We're just gonna go with this. The mechs are gonna be based off this. Boom, 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 boom. Which is very funny. Like, I don't know. I don't think Endless Divide episode 1's going to be out by the time this comes. Oh, no, it actually might be. It might. I don't know. That's dependent on a lot of background stuff. But if it is, like, I really just know that, like, 2 out of 4 characters were, like, first option, best option by both Micah and Akka. It was fucking brilliant. It was so funny.
I'm not gonna lie, I really came into that holding on to the first idea that I had. Where
No,
I'm like,
you were.
I can flex, but I don't want to flex on this one.
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but like that actually does speak to something where it's like, sometimes you really struggle. Like sometimes you're like, I really don't know what I want to do, what I want to play. You know, and that's perfectly fine to like walk in and not have all of that settled. That is ideally what a session 0 is for, is to like kind of force you to make some decisions a little bit. Like, okay, you know, now is the time to actually make decisions. But like, if you have a really strong idea, and if your DM or your table, especially if you know them well enough, you know, if you know they're going to be on board for it, like, absolutely go for it. Like, you know, if you have a really strong, clear idea, you should go for it, because those are the ideas you're gonna like want to stick with the most, right? Like, it's worth honoring. Like, hey, my brain came up with most of this character right from the scratch. Like, honor that, you know. And so I appreciate that you did that, because I love your Endless Divide character. Akka. I almost called you Shiro.
I literally, like, 3 different times have almost called you Corey, so I get it. But thank you.
We're not friends in real life. We only work on the podcast.
It's so true. It's not because I'm just staring at the Discord, looking at the names, and I'm like, yep, that's a name I recognize.
Are you just going to call me... Oh, what's up,
You're
evil?
evil.
Any?
What's up,
yeah,
evil?
What's up, evil?
But yeah, I feel like it's kind of very obvious that if it's something that you like, that you'll enjoy playing it a lot more. And I am going to kind of double back, because I had full intention to also glaze Slive for the whole little like questionnaire thing that he had written for us, because I do feel like that helped out like dramatically, especially with Shiro, because that was the first time, as most people know now, that I've ever played D&D. And coming into that, like, I didn't even know what the classes were. And so once we like got the class, I'm like, yeah, I'm a guy who likes birds. And then going from that into like writing the character through all the questions, it helped me like get so much more of like a personality to him. And so I do think there's definitely a benefit to having something like that. And it just really like helps flesh out your idea, especially if you're not somebody who's more of like the writing type or has that kind of creative bone to them where you can play the game and enjoy the game, but there's so much more depth to it where like you can put so much more flavor into your character. I feel like you get a lot more enjoyment out of it.
I really do believe that TTRPGs are not really like, they are games in the fact that there is chance, there is like a winning, there is something to do, and it's fun. Those are the quality. Those are the attributes of a game that I believe that TTRPGs have. But it's more of a writing exercise, really, or not even an exercise, but like a group writing experience, I guess. And that's such a pretentious way of putting like a game where you throw rocks and beat a undead guy, but that was awesome. That was so sick. That's Strangers. That's the Stranger Things season 4 pitch. I'm pretty sure.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, like I love TTRPGs because they are a game. Like it is a hobby. It's something extra. Like it's an extra thing to do, and it is a hobby the same way like a video game's a hobby or a board game's a hobby. But it's neither of those things. It's a secret third thing, like the gender spectrum.
I'm sorry, my ears literally just perked up like cat ears, like gender. Hello?
Yeah. Hello. What? Huh? I love the idea and the actions of collaboratively making stuff with my friends, and like especially when I'm DMing, I love seeing how they take this thing that I've kind of like given the foundation of a story, and how they just either build up a bunch of stories that I didn't even know that were going to happen, or demolish the whole fucking thing. And you both have done both actions in sessions for sure, and it's awesome. Every time I'm so happy that it happens, you know? It's so cool to see. It's very interesting. And while there should be less destruction when making a character's backstory, there can still be some, and a lot of it should still be some form of collaborative, because I think we all know creating by ourselves and trying to make something work sucks, and especially if there's like a deadline for a bunch of other people to experience that, it's really difficult to be like, okay, well, I gotta make this now. I'm not gonna like throw a pity party on myself. Like I am the GM, so that's kind of what I'm doing. You know, like I have to make the next session for you guys by myself. I can't like just be like, okay, guys, here's what's going on. But I make those kind of notes, and then you all get to still play around with it afterwards. But with backstories, you need to have it done before session 1, right? And so there's this need to really, like, I highly recommend working with people. Highly recommend like asking your fellow PCs, oh my god, what's something that we can do together? Or like how after talking about my character, how are these interactions? Like Micah, we actually had those conversations when I was making Barnyard for Endless Divide.
Yeah, we absolutely did. They were very valuable for both you and for me. Like you coming to me and asking, like, hey, our characters would know each other. Like, what does your character think of mine? Like, just something as simple as asking that question of like, okay, if our characters know each other before this, what do they think of each other? That's a really interesting and that's a very juicy question to just like ask, but it's really worth asking for all of the people that you're playing with if you have the time and ability to.
Yeah, especially because then you don't like sucker punch your fellow players with like, your character's possibly abrasive personality, not talking from experience at all.
There's nobody abrasive in Endless Divide.
No, everyone's super normal and cool.
Super normal and nice.
Super normal, nice and cool.
I get such an entertainment at the thought of like the two of you like going in like this really deep thing of like, all right, how do they interact with each other? How do you feel about this and that? And then when me and Slive talked about each other's characters, it was pretty much like, what if we had dudes and they were silly?
What if we just broed out?
What were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to kind of pivot off, so if you had something in the same realm.
I was also going to kind of pivot off here, too. So I would love to hear where you want to go.
Let's play rock, paper, scissors. What I was just going to do, basically, because as the faux leader of this discussion today, I want to start a little more on the side of the characters and backstories and how to fill that in. But then for me, as somebody who's never been a GM or anything like that, I would later like to kind of dive into how you can get the backstory of a world as like the creator of the world, because I think I could get some valuable information out of that. And similarly, hopefully the audience will as well. But to start on the character side of things, the main note that I have to kind of kick off the conversation, I feel like I've said this before, but if you build a character that is somewhat a reflection of yourself, makes it very easy to play that character. And that kind of runs for me with Shiro. I know that I kind of beat it in a little bit more in one of the earlier Sleep Talk episodes, but the main thought process for Shiro with me when it came to the backstory was a reflection of something that I had gone through previously, and then like pretty much like painting that into a different light of the world that we were in, and then playing off of that of like, well, if I was in that situation, how would I handle it? How would I continue on with the journey that I have ahead of me while still going through the hardships that I had gone through? And I feel like it just makes it incrementally easier, because I think I had said it before as well, that like I had a totally different idea of Shiro at one point, of like kind of being jaded, not really talking much, and then before we even started, I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. I don't want to be just this like crass dude who barely talks. I'm like, I'll just basically be me, but an elf that likes birds, and that makes it so much more fun.
I think that's great. I think it's so good for your first or second character to just be like a part of yourself. It's cool to branch out, but it's really hard. I remember one time for like my second PC ever, I think I made a fire genasi with like a really tragic past, really scared, really like socially anxious, very quiet, and very like soft spoken. That shit was so hard to play. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I kind of am loud and fast talky.
What? What? Never noticed that.
What? No. And I really do try to slow myself down for the podcast, obviously, and so that I can be a little more like articulate. But I love talking fast. I love being a little shitheel. I love playing this kind of like trickster role, and playing a solemn, really honest dude. That shit's hard. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you. Oh my god. Blah, blah, blah. Shut up, bro. Fuck you. Fuck. That character's really cool though. I really like that character, but I could not play him more than like 3 sessions we got.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I really liked what you were saying, Aka, about talking about like essentially filtering characters through your own experiences. That's actually, again, an acting, like a literal, like an acting technique where you're essentially, no, there's a thing in acting where if you are struggling to analyze a scene, you literally ask yourself, what would I do in this situation? And you start there. Like, you don't have to like end there, but you start there with that question as a way of getting yourself thinking about like, what does that situation actually mean emotionally? And so in the context of making backstories, like, yeah, make a character with a backstory that's like similar-ish to yours if you think it'll help. What's really funny is that like you can also go the complete opposite. I tend to overthink things and want to be really quiet and kind of reserved in games, and so I literally, when I made Corey, I was thinking about doing the opposite. I was literally like, I knew I wanted to play a character who was not very smart. Just
yeah,
because
and
I was
you
like,
succeeded.
I don't want to play like I literally was like, I play a lot of thinkers. We have 3 casters.
Yeah, you can't really play like a genius like wizard when there's a like a ranger, a warlock, and a rogue bard
yeah. I was like,
it's a bit difficult.
We have 3 casters, so I essentially intentionally played against type. But like in that, it's also fun, right? Of like, okay, I've played smart characters quite a few times in D&D, and now I want to play something different. And so that's also about going where your interests lie again, right? It's about following your passions.
Follow your heart. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I also have a slight pivot as well. Is there more we want to say on that, or?
About the like, I think I will say just like I agree with everything. I will say that for me, I don't just take like my like all of my experiences and kind of bundle them up into one character. I try like because I think it's good. I think that is good, and if it works, it works. But I've made so many characters where I have to kind of break parts of myself and then just embellish a shit ton with that piece.
Right.
And it makes something really interesting because it's kind of like I don't know if have you seen the original Teen Titans cartoon?
Yes,
Hell
I
yeah.
love that shit.
Yes. So in the episode with when they go into Raven's mind through the mirror, through the hand mirror.
Oh, what a classic episode.
It's so good. And so all of the Ravens have different cloaks based on her different emotions. And how different of a person Raven is if she is just one emotion is a very good way of showing off how different like the same character can be just based on different experiences, right?
Right.
And so for Barnyard, for Endless Divide, I broke off like a very protective and bullheaded part of myself because I'm a stubborn asshole, and I'm aware of that. I can be self-aware. I'm going through therapy. I know that I'm a stubborn asshole, and I cranked that up to 11, where this protectiveness, this like never wanting to be wrong, this extreme hunt for challenge, and like an extreme want to prove myself. If that was turned up and I had none of the other shit behind me, like none of the other things that made me, I would be reckless and dangerous. And I think Barnyard is both of those things while still being a person. Like obviously I had to flesh out, and because it's a break of a person, I still have to mold out the rest and like make the rest that is missing now, or at least half of what's missing, because it's a character. You don't need a full person. But making that new part, like that, those new excuses, those new interests for why and how was so interesting and so cool. And I love playing Barnyard, and it's a little therapeutic for me, even though I am terrified every time I play him because I have no idea what's happening. I really hope episode 1 is out right now, and I don't know how the editor is going to edit it yet, but there are like 3 separate times where playing my character scream out of frustration that I don't like. I try to stop myself, but I have no idea how it happens. It's so like, it's really funny to me, but also it's really weird.
That's right. Scare the shit out of your cats. Let's go.
I do. It feels so bad.
Don't. I don't care about your cats. Fuck them.
Oh, that's true. Fuck these.
Fuck those cats.
They're both sleeping in my room. Fuck those cats.
Be listening for the cats in the background of Porcelain Border.
Porcelain Border. I know Blia is in episode 2 for sure. Suka started screaming more recently this week. So in the more recent recordings, I guess recent to you guys is whatever. Whenever this is coming out, I guess is kind of like that same timeline. There might be some Suka screams. That'll be really exciting.
Hell yeah. I also literally had to mute my mic because my cat slammed his stomach into the keyboard. So that honestly would have been kind of awesome to hear. Bro simply did not care.
I don't know why that found me so. I'm just thinking, like, I know your cat isn't big, but like, the
he's
pouch,
a big feller.
The pouch. I'm just thinking of your cat teabagging a keyboard.
That's pretty much what happened, honestly. I had to delete like 3 messages in the Discord. I don't know if you guys saw it.
I saw one of them.
I saw one of them. Yeah.
Bro was having a journey. He wanted to speak. It is a speaking podcast, Bro had
It's an audio-only format. The text don't matter. Whoa. Let me speak. Let me speak.
Oh, that is hilarious. But to wrangle us back in, I do definitely agree with all of your points very much, and I feel like we really kind of just like hammered down that whole thing that like taking at least a piece out of yourself can do wonders. I do feel like there are definitely people who could like completely throw themselves out into a character that is nothing like them, and I would like to do that at some point, but especially if you're newer to the genre, I would recommend just like taking either something that you had gone through or just something that you are aware of as a part of yourself and just throwing that into your character, and it'll make all of the roleplay stuff significantly easier. Because I've got that with Shiro, and then I've also got that with Chutney, because I am a sports guy, and I just randomly thought that a character in a full fantasy setting hundreds of thousands of years in the future would still be a fan of a Nebraska college football team.
The Cornhuskers, right?
Yeah,
go
the
Cornhuskers!
Go Cornhuskers! Well, Earth actually, it's not a fictional world. Earth does exist in the Lancerverse actually.
Didn't Earth get like nuked though?
Earth got fucking destroyed. Well, not destroyed. The planet's fine, but the like people on it kind of got glassed pretty much. But now it's called Cradle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The
It's a
Cornhuskers?
core world. No, it's still Nebraska. I'm sure Nebraska's still there. Like at least the maybe Nebraska is actually like France. That'd be so funny. Actually.
Oh my god, this is
a different country. Like it's a whole country got called Nebraska, and it's so different.
I like that. Just the most like fancy high class stuff in Nebraska. No shame to Nebraska, of course.
means Chutney needs to have a French accent now.
Oh God, I don't think I can do a French accent. I feel like I can barely even do a Southern accent.
Yes. I love watching the ball fly through the air.
Go
Cornhuskers! Yes.
Is this offensive?
I have Quebecois relatives. They can go, like, if they're mad, they can go fucking call me.
I don't care about the feelings of Quebecois people or French people. So
unless they're watching this podcast, then you're really cool and awesome.
Then we love you.
Yeah.
Platonically.
It's just those other Quebecois or French people, you know what I'm saying? They know what I'm saying.
Yeah. As someone who's interacted with zero Quebecois or whatever that word is, yeah.
Wow. Okay, now I'm taking offense, you motherfucker. Goddamn American.
True. Oh no, my Florida's showing. All right, sorry. I can tell, Micah, you're trying to get us on track. Please. Continue.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I just would like to say, if you are struggling coming up with a backstory, so you're like, hey, we're playing a D&D campaign. We'll take D&D for example. We're playing D&D campaign. And you're especially having trouble coming up with a character that you want to play. One of the things I would really advise, I know it sounds cheesy, is just like, D&D has origins, right? A lot of different systems have like ways of mechanically, like, of being like, oh, I was this kind of person in my life, so therefore these are the kinds of things I was good at. And so like look through the origins and just be like, even if you're like, I don't know what would I want to play like from a story perspective, you can start by literally looking at one and being like, that's a really fun mechanic. I really like the stats that come from this origin. And then you can start to like ask questions like, what kind of person is a blacksmith? What kind of person is a scoundrel? Oh, my background is scoundrel, but the class I want to play is cleric. Huh, how does that work? And like, if you start to kind of look at those and start to like ask questions to kind of connect the mechanics that you've chosen, it can be another way to kind of start to get at a backstory. I like the Charlotte, or I like the background that gives me this mechanic, so therefore I'm that background. Now, what kind of person does that? It's a different way of approaching it. That's a lot more like mechanics focused, but like some people really are like, okay, I need the mechanics first, and that's a good way of approaching it.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I also would say that there are like in those like origins, there's not like there's also examples of like archetypes that you could just take in a lot of systems. Like Lancer has a bunch of them with like the backgrounds and stuff, but there's also Fabula Ultima, which is a game that all three of us have played, had full on archetypes that you could like right before they showed up the classes, where it's just like, hey, if you don't want to read through all these classes, you want to play like a Dark Knight, or like you want to play like this kind of like this revenging spirit, go like Dark Knight 3 in this one, you know, like in like what was it, Forager 1 or something like that. And the game can give you like, the systems usually give a lot of archetypes and pitches and just be like, hey, maybe it could be this or this, you know, like, oh, you have an agricultural background, maybe you're a farmer, or maybe you're a chef, or maybe you work for a corporation. All of the like, and then I would say don't ever have shame and if you like read something from the book and being like, that's what I want to do, because I have this like contrarian like mind virus in my brain where if the game recommends it to me, I'm like, no, I gotta do something different. no, I'm better than you. Fuck you. And then it just makes it really hard. And then I make a character and then I go through the archetypes and it's right there on the cover. And I'm like, man, I could have just thought of that beforehand. And it would have still been a good character because it's still cool. Because you still make it. A couple words in a book aren't going to determine what your character is wholeheartedly. That's not how it works.
I feel like you definitely have got a pretty good grasp on some good ideas to help you figure out some backstories for your characters. But now, sweet DMs, I would like you to, if you have anything, give me a little bit of an look into your own minds as to how you can build the worlds for the campaigns that you've run.
Oh man, that's tough. I was kind of dreading it. I hope it caught on the mic. But when you were talking about like you caught me off guard with this because I thought I didn't realize we were gonna do this. So when you were talking about that, I just went fuck.
I literally even thought ahead of time, like a couple hours ago. I was like, should I message them and ask them this? I'm like, it's more fun if I don't.
No, I think it's interesting. Like, it's a very good question too. I'll let Micah go first because I'm definitely thinking in terms of Rena, and like Plina, which is the entire like the 3 continents that take over the whole place. So I'm probably gonna answer for that world specifically. If you have more specific questions, I'll answer for generally. But Micah, please take the chair.
That's, oh man, world, like building backstory for worlds is also, as a GM, you're also going to be doing this collaboratively, right? Like, there's a lot of like, okay, it's going to depend on the kind of campaign you want to run. So if you are running a D&D campaign, you could say, oh, we want to run a campaign across the entire world of this D&D thing. In which case your scope is going to be more like, you're going to be thinking a lot more like in the context of like kingdoms and how does this kingdom feel about this kingdom, and you know, and sort of thinking more broadly in terms of the kind of backstory you're trying to come up with, like this kingdom went to war with this kingdom, like coming up with that kind of stuff. But if you're like, we're just in one main city, then like you don't have to come up with all of the stuff that happens outside that city in the same way. So that's like usually where you want to start. It's like, what is the scope of the story that we're telling? And then you start to hone in on what interests you and what interests your players, right? So you know, you start to go, okay, what interests me? Well, I'm interested in, say, the religion of this city. Okay, that's fun. So then you start to think about, like, what are ways that religion can overtake the city? Is the city religious? If it is, how did the city become religious? If it's not explicitly religious, why isn't the city religious, right? You start to figure out what's interesting, and then you start to ask questions, like, why is the world this way? In the same way that you're like, why is my character this way? whether it's mechanical or whether you know what one of your backstory beats is, and then you go, huh, why did my character do XYZ? I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, I really like that. I think it's actually really good as an answer for kind of, it sounds like, I'm not going to speak for you, but it sounds like that's more of an answer for like sandbox games where it's like, okay, if we live in this city, then all these things, like, because I've done a home game that's a very sandboxy D&D game that was a lot like that, where I had 8 kingdoms on one continent, and each kingdom had to have like their own kind of, ruling system and how their civilians worked and all that, and doing a lot of that. But for Rena, which was very story based, because we already knew the pitch before I even made the world, because during that session 0 that we talked about, you all kind of decided what mission you all wanted to go on. So don't blame me for the politics in the campaign. It's their fault, even though I align with everything about them. Wait, no, I shouldn't say that, because I align with everything against Rena, generally. Y'all get it, right? You guys get it? Am I digging myself a hole? Am I digging myself a hole?
No, you're making sense.
Yeah, okay. I'm throwing away the shovel. No, but when I was making Rena, I knew that it was an overthrow of some dictatorship. And so when I was making the world, I had to decide, okay, well, what does the world look like, and how does this interact with it? When there's this giant dictatorship that needs to be overthrown, there needs to be an equal power that can like even contest it, right? And so I had to make Vicania like a little bit. I didn't really want to work on Vicania that much, because I knew the entirety of the campaign was pretty much going to be in Rena, and even not even Rena, but Skelra, the capital. So there was no point in me really like fleshing stuff out in Vicania, where it was kind of like it was pretty much just a fantasy playground where because there was enough land where I was like, you all can be from different places, and it can be vastly different cultures, and it will still make sense. So I really bogged down on Rena and what makes that kind of kingdom tick, which is why there's the 3 houses, which is why there's a bunch of how the jobs work, how the people interact, how there's the crust and the Savior's Valley. That city is the entire set piece, which means, like Mike was talking about, scope. It has to be interesting enough and detailed enough to matter, where if you see it multiple times, you could be missing something on the 5th go around, because there's not going to be another city. Except for like the crust, maybe, maybe a possible spoilers, but like you guys could go to the crust again.
Or we could just
I don't know.
Never
I might
mind.
not. I might have to cut crust again, because I don't know if that episode's going to be. No, episode 5 will be out. Episode 5 will be out by the time this comes out for sure. But like you guys could go to the crust again, or you could all die in Savior's Valley. I don't know, but I have to make sure, especially Savior's Valley is interesting, and I hope that it's felt as kind of weird and foreign that I was trying it to make it up, because that was kind of my goal, where you are all from a different country entirely, moving into a theocratic dictatorship where there is like so much less freedom, there is so much more surveillance, there's this feeling of unease kind of everywhere, and I want to bring in that kind of weird order, like quote unquote order, that a lot of Western religions rely on.
This is not to make a statement on any particular country, I think, right?
No. I don't like. Legitimately, no. It is there is a point to bring up that maybe I am bleeding my real world politics and my real world worries and fears into the campaign. I don't think that I'm trying to, like, obviously I think I forgot to mention this part about like when we were talking about characters, but we are only our experiences, and if you try to play someone that doesn't have like your experiences, you are only guessing. Even if you talk to somebody like that is directly with it, you can only really guess how that feels, because that individual is so different from you, no matter how much you've known them, how long you've known them, those experiences will always react to them differently than it would to you. And so I never want to make it like, obviously this is a commentary on this thing that's happening right now. Even though like in episode 7, Maiko literally texted me as a scene was happening where like, this is such a perfect commentary on this. And I'm like, that was not intentional, but it works because it's so overarching, right? Because it is like, there is some point to be said that it is based on the politics that I am experiencing now, that I have to watch, and fears, but also based on history, based on fiction. I read Mistborn before the first Mistborn book before this. I read most of 1984 before this. We watched V for Vendetta. We watched Blade Runner. And I distilled a lot of those themings, and, you know, we all know history. I don't need to talk about the regimes and the orders that have been. I've read Animal Farm back in grade 9 or grade
I've read
11.
Animal Farm.
I've read
have
Animal
a
Farm.
functioning education system.
I chose to read it. It wasn't a book that we were like given, but it was in like our quote unquote library where it was like, hey, read a book. And so I went there and I saw Animal Farm. I heard good things, and it was short. I tried to read Lord of the Flies. Couldn't do that.
Lord of the Flies is it's fine.
It's fine.
Well,
sadly, I've read Catcher in the Rye and liked
never
it
read
enough.
Catcher in the Rye. I read Huckleberry
It's fine.
Finn instead.
Oh, wow. Weird.
Which is a very American book. Well, it was
very, very American.
Well, it was because we were doing a unit on commonly banned books that are part of certain curriculums.
Oh. Well, that is cool,
And-
though. Like, getting to read banned books, that's kind of sick.
Yeah, and so like Catcher in the Rye has some sexual content, is my understanding, and some language and stuff. And Huckleberry Finn has a lot of language.
Yeah, like a lot of... same reason for To Kill a Mockingbird, which I also read in school.
That amazes me that other countries read To Kill a Mockingbird specifically, but that's...
It was pretty good. I mean,
really good, but-
I went in a alternative program that was like, that had a based teacher. I wouldn't say he was... I don't agree with everything that he's done or whatever, but he was cool. And I think he was very... he attempted to teach us a lot of things that, like, I don't think main schools really could, based on surveillance of a lot of things, but also he never treated the alternative program like it was a bunch of dumbasses, which I appreciate very much. But in making Rena, I really wanted to show faults and boons of like a lot of religious ceremony, like not ceremony, but like a lot of religious belief. I think in my youth, I probably would have done it really heavy-handed and stupid, but I'm not a spiritual person, to say the least, when it comes to real life, but I am so interested in the supernatural in all forms. In like, not in like I think ghosts are real. I have no fucking clue. I have no way of stating that, but I understand why religion exists generally, for all the good and bad. And I've also seen all the good, or not all the good, but I've seen good and bad that religion does. And I really want to explore that in a way that was respectful to people who hold faith, while also kind of having major commentary on it, because it's something that interests me. It's been something that's kind of been on my brain for a bit, and something about it just felt kind of gripping. Like, I don't know how you two have felt about all of the propaganda about, like, I know everyone loves Kane, but like about all the shit he's pulling, about the Nuruk being the way they are, about like NPCs that are literally in the dirt dying, still thinking that they are better than the foreigners. It was something that I was very unsure of going in, but I hope that I've done a story in a way that feels fair to like all parties that are kind of being commented on, except for discriminatory bastards. Fuck those guys.
For the record, I love that aspect of it, And when we sort of pitched like we're going to a theocracy, this is part of the character backstory thing as well, where it's like that was partially what inspired me to go Path of the Zealot for Corey. Was I was thinking a lot about divinity, where like we're going to go into a theocracy in a world where gods are literal and actual and physical and tangible in a real way beyond what our world has. Sorry, like I don't mean to be offensive with that. Just like
no. Like
there
is. It's kind of the same way that the Greek pantheon are written about. You know,
yes,
like it's not like how Yahweh or the Greek, or not the Greek, but like the Western affiliation of God has the kind of like grip. It's very much more inspired by Greek pantheon, Egyptian pantheon, and especially the Norse, where they're just like, yeah, this guy just came down, said what's up, and then fucked my wife. You know,
yeah,
like,
but
it's crazy.
But I was, but knowing we were going into that theocracy, I was very interested in in the question of what does being a religious person of a different God look like in that situation, and what conflicts could arise. And that was kind of why I originally had pitched a cleric. We sat down in our first meeting. It was all casters. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pull a barbarian out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play a barbarian. And then I saw Path of the Zealot, and I was like, this is really cool. This is exactly what I was hoping for, because then it sort of unlocks a lot of really interesting avenues to be like, to talk about the religion question again, which is the question that Slive, you were asking with your world building. Now I am looking at it from a different angle with my character, and that came about because we collaborated, right? Where it's like, I knew that you were probably, you would sort of said, hey, these are kind of the questions that I'm asking. And then like, I can come in and be like, oh, great, here's a character that's gonna look at that and have a perspective on those exact questions in a very real way.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really cool. And I think you just kind of like sparked me, and I realized as well, I was like not just thinking about religion in itself, but I was thinking about how culture is affected just generally, like widely, and how culture is respected and culture is seen by different civilizations and different peoples. And that part is actually what me and Akka collaborated on a little bit, because Akka, I'm not going to say what it is, but during your backstory, you made an entire fleet of things due to the backstory that you were giving me. And he's probably still fighting with his cat right now, so he can't even respond.
Please tell me they were bisexual himbos. Please tell me he made a fleet of bisexual himbos, please.
I mean, I had no bisexual himbos, but I can say I have one openly gay character that does exist.
Let's go!
Let's go! Spoiler alert, Chutney's gay.
Let's go!
It's funny, as you're describing this, though, I don't remember what you're talking about. I don't know if that's a testament to my memory.
I'm trying not to say anything, because like Shiro's backstory is, there's a lot of factors and facts into it. But I will say his parents are an important part of the story of Rena in some way. Not like his parents, but elven culture actually has a point in all of Rena. There's like a whole Rena thing about elves that you guys will learn about eventually, hopefully. But the fact that Shiro is a full elf has something to do with all of Deloran's interest in him. And like, not all of it, but like part of Deloran's interest in him, as well as it has to do with stuff that will be brought up with the conflict of Rena culture. Like when, like, especially Vacania is like not a mirror, but almost like an opposite of Rena, where there are so many mixtures of cultures. There are so many different peoples and civilizations that live different ways depending on where they live, and there's a vague connection, but you won't know what the people in the South are doing compared to someone in the Northeast, and the Northeast won't know what's happening really in the North. Where in Rena, you only needed to ever be in Skelra. There's a lot of ends. That wasn't intentional, but I'm just listening to it now and wow. But you only really need to live in Skelra to know the exact experience of every single other Rena city, you know? Like, obviously it's not going to be exact. There's going to be different people there. But there is this kind of automotive, robotic copying and pasting of these cities and these cultures. Whereas, basically, Rena kind of overwrit the entire nation into one culture, where Vacania has scraps of it everywhere, right? I really hope this answered part of your question, Aka, because I'm gonna feel really fucking stupid
absolutely.
if I just went on that tangent for so long for nothing.
I think all of that was absolutely wonderful. It definitely it's interesting to hear other people describe how they pull things from kind of just all different parts of their own world to be able to put together something so cohesive that everybody can understand it, and it's so open to be able to encompass all different types of things while at the same time being so honed in on one particular part of the story as well. I think that's very cool, and that is a testament to everyone's writing ability and just their ability to be open-minded, creative people, and that is very neat. I like that a lot. And I do have one other question, and then I think that probably should be around good time for this, because I know we run them around an hour. But my question to you both is, when you're building a world, let's say you do the session 0, you've got all the backstory and everything pretty well set for the world. How technically do you hold all of that backstory and all that information? How do you pull that into each session? And when I say technically, do you have a big notepad full of different little markings of what each character's purpose in the world is, and what things you want to focus on within the world? I want to hear full nitty gritty. Give me all of the breakdown of how you as a DM can pull that backstory into the world that you create.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my standard answer, which is it really depends on the system that I'm running. Really depends on the system that I'm running.
I can imagine so.
Because some games, D&D does not really have a mechanic built in for this. And so you just kind of have to have kind of a list of different things, a sheet that's this faction is doing this faction, this group is doing this character's doing this. And you kind of have a sheet of NPCs. But if I'm running a D&D session, my notes are going to be a little bit more linear. They're going to be a little bit more sort of linear, and I'll have picked before the session some ideas of how I'm going to thread in backstory. And then oftentimes people, when they play their characters, will bring their own backstory into it. And then that you can sort of, as you go, be oh, they were part of the Thieves Guild, right? They mentioned looking for someone from the Thieves Guild. Well, I wasn't planning on it, but that's really interesting that someone from the Thieves Guild might be here. You know what I mean? Someone's can I roll a perception check to see if I see any of my old contacts? Okay, that's someone bringing it in. And then you pull up your little sheet on, I pull up my, paragraph or two I have on the Thieves Guild, and I go, okay, great, this is what they want. What might they be, and you start to build it out from there. In a game like Candela Obscura, or specifically Forged Blades in the Dark, there is a whole set of mechanics around the factions, which is sort of meant to represent the world moving around the characters. And so there's all sorts of okay, every faction mechanically has a goal. They roll dice during a certain phase of the game in order to see how how much progress they made towards their goal. There's like all sorts of stuff around like your reputation with those factions and how you interact with them. And so then that would be the way that I would keep track of it, is literally like by the way the game prescribes it, because there's mechanics around it. So it can either be like it's really going to depend. D&D is a lot more I just have a bunch of notes. You know, I just have a bunch of notes and I'm like, okay, this character fits here, this character fits here. It depends.
I like that. That is precisely the answer that I was looking for. Definitely. It's interesting, especially as somebody who's a little bit new to this entire world, to be able to see how much differently all of the different, oh my gosh, all the different systems, sorry, that world, whatever. All right, take two.
You got this, man.
It is interesting to me to see how all of those different systems can cause so many different things on how you can build your world and how to, like, take the pieces of the world that you know and put them into each session. And expanding on that, Slive, if you have anything, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Could I get a reminder what the question was? I think I get it. I just want to make sure I don't fall into a different tangent.
The question basically is just that, like, how do you as a DM take the backstory and the information that you have on the world and be able to put it into each session? Like, do you take notes? Do you have, like, big spreadsheets of each character and, like, what they do and why their goal is important to them and everything?
I think I just have to talk about my planning of a session to discuss this, just because I think that's the best way that I can kind of give my idea without, or give my answer without feeling like it's kind of half-baked. But basically, I make a bit of lore points. I make important themes, like important end goal. Like, I make an end goal for the campaign in some form or fashion, or like I kind of know what the major goal of the arc is. Like, at the start of your guys' campaign, you knew you had to take out Blur Tusk, and then also the other one, the second mark that's going to happen later. And I know that it's going to end either with that second mark being dead, or there's like a kind of secret ending to Rena that you guys can maybe find.
It's a TPK.
That's the non-secret ending that I talk about every session. I'm like, you are all gonna die. You're all gonna die. You're all gonna die. I do that before every session, so I get the editor to cut that out. But I say, you're all gonna die. You're all gonna die. You're all gonna die. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. It's a test to see if anyone's high before the session.
I just start screaming.
I fail.
Ah! No. But I make the campaign. I make the major goals, and I make general like stuff about what the area that you're in is like what, like, make a couple buildings. I kind of make maybe one or two employees for some of the buildings that I'm pretty sure are interest. I never make buildings that are like non-interest to somebody. Like, I actually just remembered that I had these, but I have like the world schedule where I have a list of all the places that you guys can visit during your free times, depending on what like time of day you have your free times. But for when we were doing the old schedule system that I just don't give a shit about anymore, I like the way we've been doing it. It's a lot cleaner. But I made a bar because everyone needs like a tavern and stuff like that. I made a recreation center that I thought that KJ was going to go to a lot more.
I'm sorry.
I obviously... No, it's totally okay. It's funny that I think Shiro's the only one who's gone there so far.
No, didn't KJ go to the bar because of...
No. I'm talking about the recreation center.
Oh.
Yeah. KJ's been to the bar. Valsik's been to the bar, but the rec center, like, there's been a recreation center that has a kind of like secret to it. There's the market, which Nox went to, who I knew he would like want to get some stuff. Like, it's kind of like the main area to get stuff. There was Hero Square, which people have passed by a lot. There's also a park, which I believe no one's been to. Like, I think maybe someone's been to the park once, but that was just an area I made because I thought it might be interesting. All the job locations I had to make because you guys needed employment. And so I made the farm and ranch, I made the theater, I made the mines. Well, the mines were made beforehand, but that was kind of like the thing. But I need all of those places because I thought, well, these characters have interests and there can be something to be gained here in some way. Like the rec center can give just small bonuses. I believe we talked about when we did it. I can't remember what the bonuses are anymore, but like those can give small bonuses. The bar, like the tavern, is just a good place to get information. The market's a good place to get like supplies, and all your workplaces have benefits to them other than, you know, getting paid, obviously, but they all have benefits to them based around what you need, right? But that was like post or pre-campaign stuff. When a session comes up, I kind of think about what's happening, you know? Session 2 is a great example because you guys actually made it to the country. I was like, oh, okay, well, the first thing they're going to go to is go to worship, and they're going to meet Muf Mutur. And so I was like, okay, well, I want this character to stand out and have a whole scene with him. So I made the Emil story. I wanted to make some doctrine, some real doctrine that they have other than just the normal base conflicts and testaments and all that. I wanted real like stories, kind of like a Book of Revelations and stuff like that, or the Odyssey kind of thing, right? Where it's these anthology stories that you get told, because I don't really need to go into what Yolanda believes is good and bad, because a lot of it is like normal, but also we've gone through it with the Sheath, is like you have to protect the magic of the world, so you shouldn't be seeing it all the time. You don't want to like end the magic of color and the magic of beauty, you know? And so I try to like weave it in there through the props and the people you meet. In like Mala is a great example for KJ, or Deloran is kind of a very minor aspect of House Talor, which is one of the houses of the major government. But a lot of it is me making stuff up and growing the lore and the world as you all explore it. Because I don't want to make a novel that you all have to walk through these areas, pinpoint. And so I make it so that I try to have it so this character is going to have a scene, or Kane's going to have an announcement near the enders beginning of the session. And like, you know, these characters are like Nurak are going to be patrolling maybe like past KJ's house because there's suspicion or something like that. Like, it's all just vague general ideas of things that could happen that you might bump into. But a lot of what Rena has been not entirely improvisational, but more so contextual improv, I guess, where you will ask a question. It's not a question I have like fully answered, but based on everything else I've already said, it kind of makes sense, right? There's a lot of strange and weird holes in Rena that you all seem to fucking poke all the goddamn time.
That's our
and
job.
So I'm just like,
that's our job as players.
yeah, exactly. And that's your job so that the world feels more full, but it's also my job to make sure that there's a satisfying answer that makes sense. And so episode 7, which we had just most recently recorded, I guess that's really background stuff, but it's called the Corkboard episode. And none of that was improvised. That was all like, here's the answers to all the stuff that you might be looking for, rather than you asking a question about something else and being like, oh, I don't know, maybe this stuff. We'll go with this. Because I have to retcon a couple things, sadly, like especially in episode 1 and 2. I'm looking through my Rena document because you were asking. I have a giant Google Doc. I also use the Obsidian program to keep track of like what locations are connected to who, like who goes where, who lives where, and then I use this Google Doc for like culture. Like a lot of the culture or the lore, like I have the story of Emil and the story of Linteric here. I have like a general summary of the religion, and I also have all the colors that every like person wears, as well as what patterns certain people wear based on their rank, because that's an important part of like the kind of color code. You literally color code your people, so like it's easier to understand. You uniform everyone, right? Because that's kind of important, because hierarchy matters so much to this nation, right? Which is so hypocritical to what they keep spewing. That was like that's an important theme of the campaign. So I had to have that done immediately, but I hadn't done it fully before. And before the session 5 with the combat, I thought the emblems didn't fucking matter about the countries. I was like, whatever, the emblem for Vacania is just like an axe or something. And then I realized, oh fuck, you guys are going to see Vacanian stuff, and I'd rather have it be a cooler description. So I actually remade the Vacanian emblem, and also I have remade the Rena emblem, which sucks. Because I go back to episode 1 and 2, and I'm like, fuck, I should have had it written down. So you shouldn't improv everything, but really, you kind of build with the sessions going on, because you can't have everything done before the campaign starts, or else you're just going to exhaust yourself.
Well, also, you will think that you have everything done. You will, like, I have done this before, where I have created just an absurd amount of lore, and I don't end up using a lot of it, first off. But secondly, you will think, oh, right, I've thought about everything. And then someone comes in and immediately goes, hey, how do we take a shit? And you go, wait,
and you say the wizards, wave your wand at it.
but they'll ask something as, like, completely banal as, like, where do I wash my hands? Do we wash hands here? And you go,
and your eye twitches a little bit.
Because you just didn't even think about that.
Fucker!
And, like, that's just, like, that's why you can't, or not can't, that's why over-preparing is frustrating as a DM, too, because it's like, you just end up in situations where it's like, well, I couldn't have prepared for that, so, like, why did I spend 3 hours writing this document with most information that is never going to be seen again, you know?
Yeah, and it feels like it's not a waste of time, obviously, because you get to know your place more. You get to know your world more. But also, I think there is a point to be made that if you have everything mapped out, you say no a lot more to your players, which sucks too. It sucks to be like, well, actually, it's not that, it's actually this, and you go fucking 3 pages back, and it's like nothing that matters. You could have just been like, yeah, that's cool, go ahead. But because you made a bunch of stuff, and like, I'm not gonna, like, if you made a bunch of stuff, it should be used. But if it was never brought up before, and your characters or your PC is trying to do something cool, or your players, like, your player has a cool idea and is trying to do all this thing, and you're like, well, actually, rope is not made from hemp in this world, so it's gonna be structural. Its structural integrity is not as good, so it's gonna break under that weight. Sorry. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing here, man?
That is also a really good point for both world building and also, like, character background building. Is that sort of think of it like a podcast. Even if you're playing a home game, whatever, until it is said out loud in the game, that backstory that you have written and haven't really, like, shared with anyone, but you're, like, letting inform your character, that's not necessarily real in the game yet. You know, like, if there comes a time where you're like, oh, my character, like, if you in your backstory just imagined your character never knew how to cook. I don't know. This is just an example. You're like, my character never knew how to cook. This has never come up before. And there's an opportunity where you're like, I think it's more fun to just change that. Just change it. You haven't said anything. You're not retconning anything. Like, okay, that goes against what you wrote down, but, like, that's not the game. You can change those details so long as they remain consistent in the game. You know?
Yeah. Mike is just, like, shooting me 3 times after I just said I had to retcon. Point blank with a 12 gauge. Like, I actually do. I have that in my notes too. I said you can always retcon unless you're in a podcast, because I was going to talk about the fucking the retconning the emblems too, because, like, I knew I had to bring it up, because you're right, it doesn't it's not real until it's in the game. Like, everything that you have in your character's head doesn't, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it is not canon yet, right? Like, I have talked so much about Barnyard with Edward and Micah, you've talked to me about so much about KJ, and the stuff that you've talked about KJ sometimes hasn't happened or didn't happen because there was a different decision that you thought was really cool instead. You thought it was better for the scene. And so some things just don't happen. And I was I'm really excited to see what happens. And sometimes, obviously, I'm a little disappointed that something doesn't get to happen, but I'm also excited that something else got to, because it's so cool. So you have to be malleable. That's a big part of collaborative anything. You have to be a little bit flexible, or you're gonna break eventually. If you can't bend, you're gonna break. Remember, that's like a saying people say.
Sure is. And I definitely,
Yeah.
I feel like all of that definitely does go in the character aspect as well, very much. Because I remember for an off podcast session that we had done when we were doing something just like a homebrew game and everything, I remember my character, I felt like I had like boxed myself into something that I didn't really want to do. And I remember talking to you, Slive, about it, and you were just like, well, why? Like, you don't have to do any of that. You never said any of these things, like, explicitly, so just change it. Like, it doesn't have to be the way that it is if you don't want it to be that way. And similarly...
Yeah, if you think it's lame, get rid of it.
Exactly.
I don't care.
And similarly, too, I feel like maybe some people might be a little bit more dialed in, but... like, even with what you were saying with, like, changing the emblems and everything, if you were to, like, slide a piece of paper in front of me 2 hours ago and said, I changed the emblems for this, true or false, I would have had no idea. So, I mean, it is a little bit different when we're documenting it for the internet. Obviously, there might be people who can pick up on that, especially if they, like, binge episodes or anything, but in the grand scheme of things, I feel like if you change something, as long as it isn't, like, changing the entire story, that most people either aren't going to notice or probably won't be too particularly offended by the fact that something got changed.
Yeah. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Who
gives a
cares?
fuck?
Yeah, especially if you're not doing a podcast, like, your players will forgive you retcons. And even if you're doing a podcast, like, most of the big podcasts I can think of have retcons in them. Whether they admit it or not, like, they do. I've re-listened to a lot of them, and it's not a big deal, right? Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. If someone makes a wiki for us, you can put in the trivia that, like, the emblems got changed, but also put in that I admitted it. All right, please. I'm not a liar.
Oh, well, with that, if there's any parting little words of words of wisdom that anyone has, other than that, I think we're pretty much wrapped up, I'd say.
I do want to kind of rapid fire my notes, but I can do that at the end if Micah has something more, like, tangible to say.
No, I don't have anything more to say other than, like, have fun. In a very real sense, making your character and making the backstory or making the world is a part of playing the game. And so, just remember, it is a game, and you are playing with people, so have fun and collaborate. That's all I have. Slive, AK-47 me with your notes.
All right, yes. So everything that I didn't get time to say just because I couldn't find a spot. For my process, I try to think of personality and broad interactions to common situations first, and then build backwards from there. That's something I like to do, where I'm like, I just want to play a big brute asshole, or I want to play a tricky bitch. Then I want to try and, like, work with that and be like, okay, well, why do they have these interactions? What are they scared of? Who may have made them this way, or did they, like, come away to this? Usually it's through monologuing in the shower. I just kind of monologue as a character for a while if I'm, like, really into it. That's how I got a lot of what Brutus does. For inspiration, if you're stuck, just think about a character that you really like that got, like, zero love in the medium, and think I can do better, because you can just change up a couple things and you'll probably have a really cool character. If you really love them, you'll have some passion towards them, right?
On the note of inspiration.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I do need to say one thing.
Yes.
On the note of inspiration.
Yes, go ahead.
You will have infinitely more fun, and you will be infinitely better at building characters, building worlds, if you engage with media in general. Read books, watch TV shows,
Yes.
watch movies, listen to podcasts, whatever you want. But find media that you like and listen to it. And then just think about it. What makes it work? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And that goes back to your inspiration thing. So.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. The only way to make art is to indulge in art. That's just true. And if you are quote-unquote copying something, as long as it's not beat for beat, you're good. Like, that's a real just artist tip in general. Like, there's plagiarizing, but then there's being inspired. And I think the difference is very obvious to audiences. Maybe less so now, because apparently like media literacy is dying, but whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Back to my notes. Many people use their favorite characters in media as a template. Don't be afraid to join that trend. Just try to make something new out of it. That's what I was talking about. Like, you are not making like a character that's going to be monetized in any way. You can just make Goku. That's fine. You can just make Goku, and I'll only judge you like a little bit if it's not that different. I think that's fine. Like, unless you're playing a podcast, like, I think we are delegated to be a little more unique, because we are like recording this and we're trying to make characters that stand on their own in some form or fashion. We're trying to make a story that stands on its own, so we can't like rely on templates, but we can rely on parody or inspiration or like, you know, all that. I mean, I'm very open that Mistborn made probably like 25% of Rena entirely. Next note. Ask a question about your characters that you might not have asked on the first go. Get niche with it. Ask what their favorite food is and why, and where was the first place they had it. It's really weird. It really helped. I was doing this with this actually note came out because I was doing this with Micah like 2 days ago, and it really like worked out. It was pretty cool. A character with a goal is good.
What character did you ask?
The cigarettes.
Oh, the cigarettes thing.
The cigarettes.
Sorry. Yes, this is for something that I'm writing. That I asked the question: what brand of cigarettes does this character smoke?
Yeah, and then I started asking deeper into it, and through that we got a whole like character arc, or not like a character arc, but we got kind of like a backstory. We got a backstory out of it. It's all coming full circle. Sorry. A character with the goal is good. Duh. Try to make sure that they want something in every scene, because if you are going to be a PC, not in every scene, but like if your character doesn't want something in a scene, don't be bored. Ask yourself what other PCs want in this, and whether your PC is going to help them or watch them fail, or watch them succeed. Because enjoying what your fellow PCs do makes you a better player. But try to make your characters feel like they've been alive for X amount of years. That's just true. It's hard. Like if your character has lived for 25 years, they've lived in that world for 25 years, and they know about 25 years worth of information. So they probably know some stuff, and they probably had weird experiences. You can bring that up in the middle of play to be like, oh yeah, when I was 7, I saw like a moose get eaten by a dragon. Just say that. And if like your GM is like, their dragons are in that area, you can just be like, okay, well, what kind of monsters are in that area? I want that to be like a key point. And then you can make a little story out of it and be like, okay, there we go. Collaborative storytelling. Yada, yada, yada. Inspiration is everywhere. If you think about something long enough, you'll probably snag onto something interesting. A walk in the park helped me create an entire country for my home D&D game. That is true. I walked in one park and was like, I'm making a forest nation, because I was interested how the sun only like parts down and beams through like certain parts of the leaves, like through the like the holes in the branches. I thought that was really cool. So I made an enshrouded forest country that like uses glass and stuff to reflect light from the sun. Whatever. And my last note is playing is the most important part. Micah really touched on this, but no matter how much you write about a character, no matter how detailed they are, how much they've done in their backstory, how much you've written about them, it only matters as much as you're playing them. Because playing is the part where the TTRPG is a game, which means it's the hobby that everyone can indulge in. I think that is the best part to come off of. Is playing is the most important part, and like Micah said, fun is the goal. Fun is the most important part of making a backstory, and especially of playing a goddamn game, or a group collaborative writing experience. As I said, like an hour and a half ago.
I am just gonna disagree with you slightly. The hobby that everyone can indulge in is obviously smoking.
Oh, so true. You're big tobacco today?
I am big tobacco today. I'm sorry. I'm cigarette pilled. I work at a convenience store, so it's just something I think about a lot randomly. Because I sell them.
Please go to Micah's convenience store and buy smokes.
Yes.
And then throw them away because smoking's bad.
Smoking is
so
bad.
real.
Don't do it.
Don't do
support local businesses.
unless you want to look cool as hell. It's a joke.
Unless you want to look cool as hell, but also just buy herbal cigarettes because they won't kill you.
Sure.
Probably.
I have asthma.
I also have asthma.
Let's go.
It's cooked.
We are truly living in a time. With that, I think that's going to wrap up our episode for the evening. Hopefully, you've learned some things that can help you flesh out the characters you're creating and the world that they're exploring in. The biggest part of creating a backstory is to let the creativity flow and to have fun doing it. And that will show through the work that you create. And you guys kind of stole my flow in the outro talking about having fun before. It's totally fine. Without further ado, it's time to wake up. This has been Sleep Talk. Thank you for watching, and take care.